I drive my car up to the lake as if there's someone to awake. I haven't been to bed for days, I live in a twilight haze. And I set my heart to the setting sun, and I hope that no one else has done it. And the drinks are never far, open up the bar. I miss you every single day. I wait until I'm stuck your way. I hate the way I'm strayed into these perfect days.
You're a tea drinker, just like me.
Not quite a teacher, but not quite a teacher.
Oh, sorry, a tea drinker.
A tea drinker, yes.
Yeah.
There's not many. Just because the coffee people. No, this is great. This is fine. This is just great. Oh, I think I had another tea from Zilong. Somebody else. It was one of the teas that like you put into a thing and it opens up. This is really cool.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Very nice tea.
I can't remember what they kind of bloom inside
Yes,
the
yeah.
teapot.
Once you put the water in, it's quite
Yeah.
cool.
Remember those blooms?
And they're really little balls.
Oh, yes. There could be oolong, maybe.
Yeah, I think
I love
maybe it was
oolong
different.
tea.
There was so many. There's quite a few different types of tea, so I don't know.
Yeah. Do you normally drink black, or do you like?
Yes,
Because I've got.
black.
Oh
Black
yeah.
is how I normally
I've got
drink my
a.
tea.
I don't know how I got into it, but there was a time when someone must have mentioned it. It was after green tea. Green tea
Yeah.
kind of swept around the place, and everyone
Yes,
was drinking
yeah,
DT,
yeah.
and it had antioxidants in it, and everyone was really good for your health.
Yeah.
And then white tea came along, and everyone was like, "I'm going to get into white tea."
Is that just black tea with milk?
Nah, it's
I like tea. I don't know that much about it.
nah, it's so it's kind of similar to green tea, but it's called white tea. I haven't turned off those fans, Milton. Sorry. Yeah, white tea. So it's like the very first little leaves. They call them the first shoots coming out on those tea tree leaves. They pick them, and then you just treat it like normal tea, I suppose. But it provides this, and there's also yellow tea as well.
Yeah.
And I guess the colour is, what you kind of end up with in the end. The white tea isn't exactly white, but it is. It's real grassy kind of. If you like that kind of flavour.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
My grandmother, both my grandmothers have tea farms.
Do they?
Yes, and I grew up spending a lot of time in the tea farm.
Yeah.
A little bit trying to pick it, but
Yeah.
but I never really she only ever got like one type of tea. So she sells the tea to the tea factory, and they would give her tea for her tea, like actual tea that you can now brew.
Oh, yeah. So it goes through a fermentation process.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
We did go to a tea factory once to see how it works, but I only ever just had like the regular black tea, I think, would probably use.
Yeah.
Never really played around with the other. I don't know that she ever did either. Like I think she only just picked the one type of leaf and never like used. I don't know.
So Ciru, you're here and you work for an organisation called 24/7.
I do.
YouthWork.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And so whereabouts are you from?
I'm from Nairobi in Kenya.
Nairobi in Kenya.
Nairobi in Kenya, which is in East Africa.
Cool. So let's just go back to the tea.
Yes, that's the tea.
Sorry. So that's like, oh right. So she how big's the farm?
That's a very good question, and I don't know. It's very big.
Yeah.
Yeah, she lives on top of a hill, and so the whole one side of her farm, all the way down to the bottom, is tea and some coffee as well. Actually, although I think she definitely had way more tea than coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's quite a while. I think it'd probably take, I don't know, 10-ish minutes to get from the top to the bottom because you're going downhill.
Wow. And it was a good living? Like it was a good kind of...
No, that's just like her retirement. That was just like
Oh,
her
really?
retirement thing that she does. So I guess it's not like that big a farm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just kind of what she started doing. Moved to the country when she was retired and
lovely.
growing tea. Everyone around her grows tea as well. So it's just like valleys of tea.
That's so cool.
Which is really, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice
really
one.
Cool.
And now what brought you over to New Zealand?
I moved here to study, and I guess I finished my study and I haven't left.
Does anyone know about that?
Yeah, the New Zealand government's very rare, and I've got all my papers in check.
Totally inappropriate, but cool. Wow, and you got into youth work. Were you always? Is that what you were studying, or were you studying?
No, it's actually a little bit of a. I kind of got pulled into it. I was initially way more interested in working with children, and but when I got here, part of my study. So I studied theology, and part of my study was I needed to do an internship, and what was available was doing some youth work at the church really close to me, and so I started doing that, and just kind of it really like grew on me, that like age group, and I loved it. And so towards the end of my study, I started doing 24/7 youth work at Kashmir High School, and it's really great. So I kind of got pulled into it, but it's been amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Really good.
So you were studying theology, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Through,
theology.
What's that through?
At Laidlaw College.
Laidlaw, that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, nice one. That's cool. So
Okay.
24/7 is a relationship between a church and a school.
Yes, a church, a school, and I guess kind of like the community.
Yeah.
Because there's support, financial support that comes from those three areas. Yeah.
And there's no kind of government support or anything like that?
There tends to be quite a lot of government support from, I would say that the local council tends to contribute to that as well.
Nice one. And are you, because how many kids are at Kashmir? There must be a couple of thousand, is there, or close?
Yes, definitely more than 2,000 and a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit more than 2,000. So quite a big school.
So how many like youth workers or counsellors would a school of that size require as just like for the school themselves?
I don't know about the requirement, but I think when I've been there and Kashmir has had the most counsellors, there's been 3 or 4 counsellors. And it kind of just moves up and down. But we've had about 4 to 5 youth workers there as well. So we work a little bit with the counsellors, but kind of do a little bit quite different things. Yeah. Because
it seems like there's a lot of different kind of community groups, like Stepping Stone Trust, and there's so many different kind of organisations. It's hard sometimes to know what each role they play and how they all fit together. But it seems to... How do you feel? Is it kind of working? Is everyone... Or are there still kind of gaps in the thing? Or
it's quite interesting because I went for conference last year, which is like the National Conference for People who Work with Young People. It does have an official name that I forgot. But it was really interesting just going there and seeing how many organizations they actually are supporting young people, and they do such different things. And some of them are just really specific and will support like a very specific area, like education or like family or that kind of thing. And I think at Kashmir, it's starting to work together a lot more, like because each person is, there's so many students and you're doing such a specific task, it's really easy to get locked down into your own little job. But I think that they do work really well together. We don't tend to overlap on our roles too much. And so sometimes you will have students who are seeing several different forms of support, but
I see.
There's a lot of there's communication between us.
Exactly.
About who's the best person to work with us.
So in New Zealand, like I think I don't know, I sort of feel like we get told that there's quite a high suicide rate and stuff like that in New Zealand. I'm not entirely sure how true that is. I think it is in as far as OECD countries go.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of, do you see sort of trends in the youth today? Is there sort of predominant kind of problems that you kind of see reoccurring in young people, or is it just kind of just the youth itself and the nature of growing up kind of, and it's a real kind of up and down kind of time?
I think that there's a lot of it that's that. I think there's a lot of it that's just, it's just the process of development, and when you become a teenager, you spend a lot of your time discovering who you are and kind of trying to grow outside of your immediate family and trying to discover yourself and your interests and creating your own friend groups and keeping and sustaining those. And so that's tumultuous. You're also physically growing, and so there's a lot of change that's happening in your brain, in your body, and it's a lot to happen at one go. And so it can be pretty stressful. Yeah,
for you just
for even somebody who's
all kids.
For all kids in perfect living conditions, I think it still can be pretty tumultuous. I don't know why we know this, and it's happened for generations. That the process of changing and growing has never. It's not been
great time.
It's not been new, but for some reason it keeps surprising us, and maybe we don't talk about it enough, and so young people are coming into this space and being surprised by all the change they're having to experience. But in reality, this has been happening for generations. It's not new. Maybe we need to kind of talk about that.
Tell them when they're 12.
Yeah.
Next few years are going to be rough, guys.
It's going to be rough, but you're going to be fine. You kind of get out of it.
Pop out the other side.
The older you get, the more clearer your life becomes. But I think that there are some problems specific to maybe the New Zealand culture and also with the digital age. That's definitely brought along its own set of problems. But I think one of the biggest trends I see is anxiety. That's probably one of the biggest ones, and varying levels for different reasons, but kind of all having the same effect of making it really hard for young people to flourish and thrive and be themselves, because they're really afraid of what will happen, what other people are going to think. They don't know, so sometimes can keep you away from going to school. And also not having good enough coping skills for that, which then results in other dangerous habits. So I'd say probably anxiety is one of the really...
So anxiety is something that potentially could grow and kind of left unchecked.
Yes, it can be just...
And is that something is that more prevalent in New Zealand? As compared to Kenya, say, or...
I don't remember. I think here, it can be really good to name something. So I think because it's named, there's, young people can pick up on it really early. While I think that when I was growing up, it wasn't really like a thing.
Right.
I definitely felt nervous. And really, actually, it's only in the last year and a bit that I've really understood what it means to be anxious. And in my head I was just like, I'm nervous about doing something, and I feel sick in my stomach, but it's never been
right.
It's never been something that has then meant I can't do something.
No.
It's just been like, well, you kind of keep going. So I think when I was growing up, that wasn't something that we really talked about. And there would have been some people who are a lot shyer than other people, but for the most part it was just it wasn't debilitating. I don't think I saw a lot of that, and definitely didn't talk about it like anxiety as a thing.
That's interesting, the identification thing. Like you say, identifying even just those formative years in a child or in a young adult, identifying the fact that they're going to be hard and there is going to be a lot of turmoil, and then identifying anxiety. Perhaps it does kind of take the power out. I suppose there's a bit of a risk of it making out that maybe it's going to be worse than it is going to be. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's
drawing attention to something.
There's pros and cons of naming, and I think because anxiety is also like an actual medical condition, but it's also something that you experience on a daily basis, and not that big a deal. It's not like that. It's not always the official medical condition. Sometimes it's just like
That's right.
an increased nervousness, and so
Yeah.
it's anxiety. And so, but because those two things are real and can happen, they can be people who, and especially young people, can be like, oh, I have anxiety and this is something that I really deal with.
Yeah.
But that could be different from like the medical
Yes.
official
Yeah.
anxiety, and so you can end up labeling yourself with
Yeah.
something that you don't.
Maybe everyone should say we all have anxiety, and kind of like mental health these days,
Yes,
right? We
yeah.
all kind of have mental health,
Yeah.
and to a varying degree, to a
Yeah.
greater or lesser degree,
Yeah.
it can kind of impact our lives in a positive
Yeah.
or negative way or
Yes,
whatever.
yeah.
Anxiety probably in some way, shape or form probably serves a purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
Keeps us safe.
yeah, it's one of those things, it would be silly to try and eliminate it completely
Yes, yeah.
because, I mean, if no one had anxiety,
Yeah, it keeps us safe.
the world would be a terrible place.
It
No,
would be.
I don't know. But,
Yeah. We can kind of go off the rails. A
yeah.
little bit.
How much do you think culture plays a part in this? Like, the whole, I don't know, social media and things like that.
Yeah.
With young kids, are they getting educated in schools about the effects of social media and how to deal with it? I'm assuming they are. When I went to school, social media didn't exist.
Didn't exist. Yeah, I think that we're
Isn't that crazy?
very much in the. It's kind of when you experience a natural disaster that you didn't think was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then you suddenly are like, oh my gosh, okay, so how do we deal with this? Like, let's start working, let's start training people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I've only been in New Zealand post the earthquake, so I don't know if before the earthquake you had like earthquake drills. I don't know what that was like.
We did, I
we did
think.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Or even after we had the lockdown, and now like I was working at an after school care program, and we started having like quite regular lockdown drills.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I think that's sort of what's happening with the social media thing. We don't really understand it quite well enough. We don't know how big it is, but schools have started to realize that it actually is making a really big impact on young people, and so they have to do something about it. But we don't. So there's a little bit of education, but we don't know enough about it to properly educate.
Yeah.
And we don't know enough about it to be like, actually, this is the right age to start having social media, wrong age. So they started to be like a few rules around what you can and can't do and how to like, because what happens with social media can happen outside of school. So this is, I think, one of the biggest differences now and before the digital age. If I was getting bullied in school, I got to go home at the end of the day, and I didn't see I didn't see those people, and I got to go home and be loved and cared for, and be in an environment that's telling me something different about who I am. And then I come back to school the next day, and the bullying will continue to happen. But because I'm having a significant amount of time outside of school where I'm hearing something different from what I'm hearing in school, it kind of you could handle it a little bit better.
Yeah, totally.
But now young people are getting into school and getting bullied.
Yeah.
They go out of school, they're in communication with the same people.
Yeah.
The bullying will happen in real life, it'll happen online, and even when you're at home and you might be hearing something different about who you are and something more positive, the voices are still with you there, and the things that are happening in school are still happening outside of school. And so that is really hard to deal with, because it's never ending. It's a constant cycle. You don't get a break. And because there's what happens to social media, a lot of it is happening outside of school. It's very hard for the rules around what's the school's responsibility and what's not their responsibility.
That's right.
It's a really difficult lines to draw. And
Yeah.
they're just like, well, I guess a student hurting another student outside of school is kind of not our job, but it's also our job. And so it's really just hard to like navigate that space. And a lot of it you're just hearing from, a teacher will hear from a student that this is happening online.
Yeah.
But you can't see
Place
it the same way. It's so much harder. So I think it makes for some very, very difficult situations.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, I didn't kind of think about that, but yeah, you're right. It is quite pervasive in our lives.
Yeah.
Oh, there was something else I was going to touch upon. I've forgotten now.
And I think also because so if you don't have social media, for example, you end up missing out on lots of connections. And so being connection and peer and having peers is a really big part of being a teenager.
Yeah.
And so losing that connection can also have its own, is also stressful on a different level. And it's kind of like, so you kind of want the social media, you kind of want the connection, but you want it to be happening in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I mean, that's right. So I remembered the lockdowns.
Yeah.
So there were drills on the lockdown? Like there were lockdown kind of...
They were never, I never had any in school, not in Kashmir.
But they were kind of like, okay, this is
something.
Yeah, prepare yourselves, guys.
Yeah, so I was working at an after school care that works with Thornton School, St. Martin's School, and Somerfield School. And it had always been in our procedures that we had like a kind of a lockdown drill just in case there was somebody coming in and we didn't know who they were or whatever. But but it was always like we kind of had a plan in place. That's right,
that lockdown. I'm sorry, Shira.
I don't know what lockdown you're talking about.
I was talking about the COVID lockdown.
Sorry. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot.
No. Yeah, I was thinking, that's so weird that you would have a thing.
Part of our life.
Okay, right. That type of lockdown. So, a terrorist kind of lockdown. Yeah, keeping the kids.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I was like... Sorry. My brain was trying to get my head around. I completely
forgot that
there's a pandemic coming, guys. Everybody stay.
I forgot about the pandemic. That's just my life now.
Right. That's right. So you were in another group, not at the school for that
not
type
at the
of thing.
school, but we had. But I just remember it happening.
Yep.
After that, we were quite serious about the lockdowns, and they made a lot of sense, and we're kind of like fumbling to try and create something to make the kids feel safe after this situation, which is kind of what I feel like is happening with the digital age. We're just like we're fumbling a little bit because we don't know what's happening. We're trying.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. That had global implications. That terrorist attack in Christchurch, unbelievable, and it was just so unexpected.
Yeah, that was very unexpected.
I don't think we could have chosen, or it could have happened to a place that was more, underprepared, I suppose, in some respects. Although, in saying so, all the emergency services and stuff handled it pretty remarkably well.
They did.
So, I mean, I guess that's all we can really ask for. So, go back to the pandemic and stuff. How has that affected the young people?
Oh, yeah, that has been...
Presumably, or when I say the pandemic, there's the virus itself, COVID-19, and then there's all of the
management of the virus.
Yes. So, and from my perspective in hospitality, obviously it hasn't been the virus that much; it's been the management of it.
Yes, of course.
And I probably have, I don't know. My views are probably shaped by that. But how's it been for the kids? Like, has it been probably a bit of a negative?
It's really interesting. Right? There's a real mix. So for students who school is a really stressful place, which actually for a lot of people it is, just because of the social stuff. That's big and it's a lot. Yeah. But there's lots of kids who enjoy school. So for the kids who love school, when young people love school, that was hard. Yeah, the pandemic was hard.
I see.
They didn't have, and especially for people whose home situations were not great. That was also really hard. Yeah. But also really interesting because for students whose school is a really stressful place and home isn't, the pandemic was great. They loved it. They loved being able to be at home and learning in an environment that they prefer and learning on a schedule and a time that kind of works for them. Young people need a lot of sleep, and I don't know why. We kind of get to...
I've heard about that.
The sleep... We decrease the sleep as the child gets older. Yeah. But actually... Yeah. You really need it a lot when you're a teenager. There's so much growth that's happening. The last time you had like this intense amount of growth was when you're a child, and so you kind of go through your intermediate years, and you're stagnant a little bit, and then you get to your teenage years, and it's insane what's happening. Yeah. And you need a lot of sleep to grow, and you don't get that when you're. Well, it's definitely personal time management problems, but also being able to be at home. Yeah. During the pandemic meant that people were sleeping quite a lot. Yeah. And so they were really rested, they were able to think better. So
that's great.
In some ways coming back to school, students were a little bit more on top of things, but also because of not having to learn as much. Yeah. And lost out on lots of social connections. that's also been its own separate challenge. But I don't know. Yeah, I can't figure out if there has been people's mental health has gone down or up. It really depends.
Okay. Yeah.
It really depends. But I don't think it was as bad as it wasn't like, the COVID lockdown was terrible on everyone. I don't think that's
the unusual thing about life is that when you do get thrown a curveball, when things go wrong, that's when you're kind of faced with that question of, am I going to sort of roll over, or am I just going to get hit, or am I going to sort of stand up and fight and push back?
Yeah.
And that's when some kind of magic can happen with kids or anyone, because then there's an opportunity for people to show their true kind of strength and grit and resolve, and things like, and even with business, in actual fact, I think some of the other people have talked about it. You know, these have been some of our worst years. Oh, hey, there's that, the best of times, the worst of times type of thing. I suppose that's what that was talking about. But, business, you've got to suddenly start looking outside, and you're not perhaps so lazy.
Yeah.
So I suppose some kids have really flourished with getting a bit of, I don't know, a bit of kind of tension, a wee bit of... I don't know. Something's happening. At least something's happening.
Something's happening.
Yeah. It's not just that boring monotony of getting up every day and dragging yourself out of bed.
Yeah.
Something kind of exciting's happening.
It is exciting. I think the thing that has been the hardest to get back to is figuring out rhythms of school. So we've been kind of in and out of this lockdown period for about 2 years, and so people who were at the start of their year 7 went through the whole of intermediate in school, out of school, in a really weird thing. We can't really have assemblies. You're not meeting together, and so the culture of what's
routine
school culture kind of school culture kind of dies because you don't have enough. You're not connecting enough to build something, and so they're coming into high school now. I think the year 9s. There's a really weird like lostness and a very like we don't know how to. I had a student the other day tell me, I don't know why people talk about the school like it's so great. I don't know why they say it's such a great school. I don't see it. And I was like, actually, fair enough. We haven't had any assemblies. There's not been really anywhere where people can tell you, this is what we do at this school. This is who we are. This is the kind of culture we're trying to create. These are the type of people we're trying to build and become, because those like large group gatherings aren't happening and you're only in your little silo of your classroom. And so it's been I think the people coming into high school now are in a really weird space of not understanding
because it exists
and how it works
in the other people's minds almost.
Yes,
but they haven't had a chance to form that.
No, they haven't had a chance to form it. And actually, the year 10s and 11s, who would have been year 9, I mean, the year 11 and 12s, who would have been year 9 and 10, in the last 2 years, also had the same problem. So we're having like kind of almost getting to an entire group of students in high school who have a really strange experience of school, a really strange understanding. I haven't really been able to do that like a group movement, which I think has created a lot of anxiety as well for students who are like, we don't know what school is. This is such a big new place and we don't understand it, and there's not enough room for the staff to explain to you what happens here. So it's been really interesting. I think this has been one of the hardest terms. And trying to figure out why and what's happening is...
I think the sooner we head into Orange, the better. It will kind of, a lot of other things will be able to drop away, and I think there'll be a lot greater sense of, going back to normality.
Yes, but it's going to be hard for the students to then be hit with...
That's right,
what's this we're doing? What do you mean? Like, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting transition.
Yeah. I think a little bit of... when things are changing, I suppose, you're always learning stuff, I suppose, no matter what the situation. Hopefully there's always an opportunity for kids to learn.
There is.
Yeah.
100%.
Are there any do you see any sort of, areas we can improve on, like, I don't know. Sorry, that's a pretty enormous question.
As human beings, as the country,
no, just
as the world.
Just youth.
You might need to be a bit more
Yeah,
specific.
true. Sorry.
No worries.
Well, I don't know. Are there kind of any obvious kind of areas with youth work where we're perhaps just not hitting in the mark? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not, maybe. I don't know, I suppose.
Or even, what about areas that we are hitting on the mark?
Yeah.
Or you're hitting on the mark. I don't do any youth work personally.
Yes, yeah. Things that are going really well is that I think there's been a lot more understanding of the importance of the holistic development of a young person and of children in general. And so we're not just thinking about, or they just need to come into school and learn how to do math, but we're actually realizing that the social part of school is really important.
Yep.
How you're able to deal with friends, how you're able to overcome difficulties, how you're relating to other students. That's all important. And so they think there's a lot more work and effort put into that, which is really great.
Yeah.
And even what you're saying before about when the youth are getting a bit more sleep, so they come back and they're a bit more alert. That's part of the holistic understanding,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So obviously if you're a bit frazzled and tired, you're going to feel a bit more anxious.
Yes, of course, 100%. Yeah.
So all those are just natural things.
They are. And I think, so that's been, I think that's something that's kind of going well. We're thinking a little bit more rounded, which is really great. I think something that we underestimate the value of is the importance of like positive adults in a young person's life. And this includes firstly parents. I don't think, I think there's a little bit of parents feel this like, oh my goodness, my child is a teenager, I don't know how to deal with them, I don't know how to handle them. But the reality is the parent is the most important person in a young person's life. If the parent is loving and caring for their child, the child's ability to flourish in difficult situations and circumstances is so much higher.
Yeah.
I think parents underestimate the value and the influence that they have on a young person. The young person will not, as a teenager especially, will not at all acknowledge the positive and how much they love their parents, but they
Even
really
though
do
they
love
exist.
them and care about them a lot, or that they exist, and they'll probably, in fact, be sending you the opposite message, but it is 100% not true about the impact. Like a parent is incredibly influential in a young person's life. They mean the world to them. Yeah. And a young person, I don't think, understands this or can be able to communicate to this. Yeah. But they are living it. And when young person's parents, guardians, their caregivers are having a good impact on their life, the young person behaves differently. Yeah. So I think that's probably the biggest thing we underestimate. And I also think that the change that can happen in a young person's life has to start from those people closest to them and from their family. Yeah. And I think that the more they say, I think I read something like a young person needs five positive adults in their life to flourish. Yeah. So that is like grandparents, parents, just other positive adults telling them who they are. Yeah. Because telling them the truth about who they are and being a positive influence. So that's probably the thing I would say that probably needs to happen.
There's the kind of the foundation. But that's interesting, isn't it? Because youth work, like your role, is kind of to fill in one of those gaps, I suppose.
Yes, definitely.
And then build a relationship with a kid that may not want a relationship.
Yes.
Anyway, even a healthy kid.
Yeah, that's true. I think one of the advantages of being a youth worker is we're not teachers, we're not parents, we're not guardians. We don't really have, we're not trying to tell them what to do and what not to do. Yeah. We're just we're an adult who's saying, we want you to thrive and to flourish. Yeah. We want to support what thriving and flourishing looks like for you. Yeah. And so it's a lot about just saying, trying to understand the young person. What do they like? What don't they like? What makes them feel alive? And trying to get them in more spaces where that can happen. Yes. And telling them and continuing to tell them that they are amazing, that they can thrive, that there is hope, that there is something that they bring to the world that's different and new, and worthwhile for other people to know about and to experience. Yeah. And so I really enjoy my space because it's not the young people tend to not to be so opposed to the relationship.
So, yeah, but it's tough, like you say, for the parents who perhaps are getting just for maybe one entire year, like one word answers.
Yeah, it's so tough. I honestly,
but nevertheless, they've
push through.
Push through. Yeah,
push through.
That's right.
Keep saying it. You're not going to get a lot of feedback for a while, but but don't stop. Don't stop. Keep saying the positive things. Keep telling them the truth. Keep pushing for the relationship.
Exactly.
It's
so cool. Like, keep on telling them the truth.
Yeah.
Like, just having that foundation.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the truth is really important, and it's like with working with Sam, we're able to be really truthful with each other, and it's just massively helpful. And it doesn't just go one way, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's a relationship. It's about having a relationship and knowing what is important at that time, and what's going to make the changes.
People know when you're telling the truth, and especially young people, like sense it, right?
100%.
And it's like, it's just like as a role model, it's just so important.
Yeah, that's true. I think that there's a lot of the world is blasting at us messages about who we are and who we should be, and they're all coming from a place of deficit. And so advertising starts off by telling you what you don't have and what you're not, so that it can tell you, you don't have this thing, and because you don't have it, your life is not quite full enough, and so you need to get this thing, or you need to buy this product, you need to have this experience. And so that's a message that the amount of advertising we're receiving now is so much more than it used to be. It just used to be, I used to just have like an advert, and then when I sit down and watch TV, there was another ad somewhere else. But now it's around us. It's everywhere. It's on our phones. We're it's all the time. We're listening to information about how we're not enough and how we don't have enough. And so for somebody to have people around you and to putting ourselves in spaces where we're hearing people say, actually, you are enough. You are good. You have enough to make a positive impact in the world. Positive messages are actually telling us the truth about who we are.
100%.
We need it like 10 times more than we did,
and
I think.
Yeah, have value. Like, because, when people are trying to sell stuff, they're trying to get money off people.
It's understanding the nature of the advertising. I mean, it's a beast.
Yeah.
You understand
that's right.
This stuff, it's not my friend.
Yeah.
They just, they want your cash.
Yes,
that's all what it's about.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you're not okay. You're not enough. We are okay. We are enough.
We are okay. We are enough.
Yeah. So once we understand the nature of the beast, then we're sort of okay. We know how to deal with it. Switch it off, ignore it.
Yes, yeah. And have enough going to places where you're hearing somebody tell you something else and something different. And I think that's where parents and role models are really important, because you can come home and your parent can tell you, actually, you're doing really good, you're doing well, they can affirm who they are. And sometimes, and especially for teenagers, it's a lot about looking for youth workers and social workers probably have this as well, is this idea of unconditional positive regard, and speaking even when things are not going, even when you're like, I am looking for the good thing that you have done today.
Yeah.
You can keep looking and find it and praise that.
Yeah.
Because that's that breeds more good behavior, more. Yeah, so I think that's something that parents can do, and they know you know your child, you've grown up with them, you know the kind of person that they are, and you can just be like, wow, you're a really kind person, you really play well with other people, we love having you in our family, we love having you here, we love spending time with you. Even if they roll their eyes and they don't want to hear it, they need to hear it because nobody else is telling that to them.
It's still sinking in, right?
It's sinking in.
Yeah, big time, because the brains is quite plastic.
Yeah.
What about attention span these days? Do you feel like, I've noticed that the whole TikTok generation and stuff like that, it's very sort of this 10-second kind of flipping attention span. It's super short.
It is really short, but it's also, I don't know how it works because I don't know if you've tried to make a TikTok video before. That takes a lot. It is quite difficult.
Yes.
There is a lot of...
Yeah.
I am not patient enough to do that job.
Yeah.
I can't. It's so... there's a lot of editing. There's a lot of...
Yep.
So maybe we have an attention problem. But
That's
at
a
the same
really
time...
good point.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
the things these kids are
Yeah.
doing are amazing. They take
Yes.
so much... Like,
Yeah.
you've got to really put your head into it. And even some of they'll be online playing video games for hours. And... even those video games take quite a lot to get into.
Yeah.
Like it's not just nothing. So I think
No.
it's more about finding more positive things to spend your attention on, and rather
Yeah.
than just like things that are draining of your energy and not growing your brain. But I think people have attention for the things that they love and the things that they enjoy.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that because now that have been having to do social media with the cafe and with Sammy bags and things, it does take a long time. It takes sometimes days of planning for just to get one photograph or to do one video and then to upload it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I suppose the viewers are just seeing it sort of happen.
Yeah.
And they're just seeing it pop out of nowhere and they sort of think that it has not taken any effort.
Yeah.
But in actual fact it has, hasn't it?
Yeah. And even like the TikTok dances, those take so much time to like learn. And then and there'll be people who are learning it, they're like learning it with 4 of their friends and doing multiple takes to get this like...
Yeah.
The result, I think the end result of what they're getting from it is worth the effort. But they are putting in effort. They are taking the attention.
Yeah, and that's important. So that's a cool way to look at it.
But it's just finding, I think that the attention span for things that you don't enjoy or for the hard work of doing something that isn't even bringing you maybe don't see the fruit of what you're doing until years later. You know, you don't really like math until you're owning a business and realize how important it is to know how to multiply. And so while you're doing it, you don't see the positive result of it. And so I think that's the hard part is learning how to do hard things because the end result is really worthwhile. Yeah, I think.
But even with making the TikTok video, it's like lots of hard work and skill sets. But they still do that. You've got the end goal, so you've still got delaying the gratification. You have to put in the hard work. So it seems to be the same process, just in a short time frame.
It's just in a shorter time frame, and you're looking forward to the gratification at the end is really great. It's the driver. It's what's pushing you to do it.
Where the gratification of I might have a business one day, it's not really there, is it? And one of the difficult things about being that kind of age of being like a teenager is that your brain hasn't developed the ability to think about the future well, which is why I think in many instances you kind of just want to encourage a young person to just keep going, keep pushing through because it literally gets better. Your brain starts to think about life differently. And so for a young person to think about this math that I'm doing now in 10 years could mean something to me is very difficult. That's why they get into hard situations and think that they can't get out of it because their brain actually isn't developed enough to think about the future well. They don't know how to think about which is why they also do really crazy things. And you're just like, did you not think? Actually, no. They actually didn't think about it because their ability to see the results of what they're doing now is hindered because their brain is still developing that part.
So sometimes we need to just look at the fact that it's good that they're doing something rather than nothing at all, kind of thing.
100%. Yeah,
it's good. They might be hyper obsessing over some kind of thing that we don't understand. I don't know. Imagine the first people who started skateboarding. Their parents were probably, pulling their hair out going, what are these kids doing? They're mucking around with this piece of wood on wheels. And I don't know if the first people perhaps did very well out of it, but pretty early on, some of those pioneers, man, they've just had massive careers. And they're like legends.
It's in the Olympics now.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So... who knows, maybe TikTok will be in the Olympics one day.
I mean, but people are making money off of it. Like,
that's right.
You can grow a big enough following that it brings you your job. It's not,
No, I watched the Mr. Beast interview with Joe Rogan, and it's insane. The kid, Mr. Beast, he's got I think he's got 90 million followers on YouTube, and he was just a young kid. He started off when he was 11 on YouTube, just doing videos and trying to make videos that people would watch, get more views.
Yeah.
And now he's just become kind of like an expert on how to get heaps of views on videos. So, you know, he's 23 years old. He's YouTuber's biggest star, kind of.
But he was smart enough to analyse how to make a great video right at the beginning, right? When he was...
Well, yeah, I suppose so. It was
the idea that
it happened. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was just kind of obsessed. It was almost like an unhealthy obsession. I think his mum thought it was terrible and didn't want him to do it and stuff. But he just kept on, and kind of. And obviously, there's not that. But there, you know, there's not sort of guaranteed success for everyone doing what they're doing. No. But it's better to be doing something rather than nothing.
And there's not guaranteed success for anything else either. You could go to university and study, I don't know, history or something. Yep. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your life is going to turn out better. So there are slightly better odds in some pathways than others. I do have to say that. I'm not trying to say like don't go to university and make sex
we've got it.
That's not it at all.
But to go to university is a default because that's what you think you're meant to do.
Yes,
because you mentioned talking to young kids before and talking about what makes them feel alive.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to wake them up a wee bit, and it's like, well, university doesn't really make me feel alive, so they want to go and do something else. Yeah, that can just save so much time and misery in their life. Having somebody to talk to for a short amount of time in the right way.
Yeah,
I truly believe there's a heap of power in finding out what energizes people early on and what just drains them of energy, and not spending. I think sometimes we've seen education as a thing where it's sort of we have to be really balanced, and I suppose there's probably truth in that, but I also reckon if there's stuff that really drags you down and stuff, you don't want to spend too much time focusing on it when you can be energized by other stuff that you just totally love.
And that's when we need our role models, right?
Yes,
so they can go, well, you're feeling like this because you're feeling a bit depressed in that because you're not doing what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
And when you do, you'll start to wake up a wee bit. So the depression is or feeling a bit down is like a sign you're just not on the right track or whatever. It's not a bad thing.
No. It's how you deal with it.
And like you said, it's not the medical diagnosis of depression. It's something completely different.
Yeah.
That's right. It's just an environmental kind of thing.
And I think there does need to be a really like a really healthy balance, because sometimes your education, definitely when you're a child, your education is sort of like a means to an end. Yeah. I think that and even if you think you want to be about what you want to be in the future, first of all, I think maybe put too much pressure on young people to figure that out really early. They don't know. They don't also need to know just yet. Try everything. I'm a really big believer in trying as many things as possible. Yep. Especially when you're young. Get into as many clubs as you can. Try all the sports. Yeah. Figure out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, and then start to form a path, because you don't know what you don't know. No. You don't know what else exists out there. You don't know what other options for work are available if you don't experience and you don't try things.
That's right.
And you might end up finding out, actually, I really like building. I really like building things with my hands. And the study part is really difficult and I don't enjoy it. But it might be the means to the end that I want. So if I want to end up building
if you're studying about building stuff with your hands, it's still, they can see the connection.
You can start to see the connection there. But there's also the ability to think and to solve problems. I think that's actually the biggest advantage. I think that's the thing we get the most out of when we learn is, and even for things like math, the ability to solve a problem that's not that you can't see, like a non-concrete problem, to be able to figure out from numbers and to, you're figuring out X in an algebraic equation is dealing with problems you can't see, which is a really big part of what we do when we're here. And so you don't think math makes a difference until you meet somebody who hasn't done very much math and you realize actually being able to think about something you can't see and solve that is
and anxiety is a problem we can't see. But it's just a problem.
It's just
a little kind of equation that's kind of come at you, and you're just like, well, what am I going to do with it? And I'll try this answer. There's a bit of experimentation.
Yeah, a bit of experimentation, and that's kind of what the advantage is. But also, I think one of the really great things about the New Zealand society is that you don't have to go to university to succeed. There's so many other ways of studying and getting to the thing that you want. Lots of like trade jobs, and even places like ARA that do such a good job of saying, this is where you're at, this is where you're trying to get to. Let's try and get there. In a way that like works for you, which is really amazing. So we kind of need to. We can't always be doing things we absolutely love, but we also should not be just doing things that we absolutely don't love and are not leading us anywhere.
I really like that idea of looking at everything. Because, look, if it's not anxiety, it's going to be money. If it's not money, it's going to be relationships. If it's not relationships, it's going to be mental health, or maybe it's going to be food or eating or something. There's kind of always something.
There's always...
I would quite enjoy youth work, I think, and sort of explaining concepts to kids and giving them... perhaps just the mental tools to kind of tackle some of those problems and make it, if they're into computer games, we'll just go, look, mate, like life is a computer game, right? And start treating it that way to a certain degree. Because it can be, I was about to say it can be just as exciting as a computer game, but in reality it should be way better.
It should be way more exciting. I really hope so. Way more exciting than a computer.
But I suppose that's what a teenager thinks, right? Yeah. They think the computer game's more exciting than real life.
It's the best thing that they've
experienced. And that's what the computer game people are trying to create as well. They're trying to create experiences like, jumping off buildings and doing things which you're not able to do in your own life.
Yeah, that's true.
So I suppose, we need to somehow engage in that part of the brain that kid is getting that... satisfaction from or whatever, and saying, well, how can you perhaps bring this into your life? Make that fantasy kind of a reality, and then just whatever it might be. I don't know.
Well, they might train up and learn how to scale a building or something and find it, man, this isn't really what I want. I want to be going doing something else. But it's kind of cool on the video game, but it sucks in real life, or what's the point, or whatever. Or you might realise, I want to join the police or join the army or something. But at least you need to be out there doing it physically.
And not just living in
and seeing what the real world experience is.
That's true.
Wow, if I was young, I would be really lucky to talk to somebody like you. I can see you know your subject just through and through, and your communication is really awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in so early, Ciru.
Not a problem.
I know it's hard. Here is our menu. So choose a little breakfast over here.
Oh, quite fun.
Yeah, it is. I've got 2 kids and they're just small, and we don't know what we're doing. We kind of do. We're working it out.
At some level, we must have our natural resources to pull on that we're born with.
Yes,
I think
so.
Right? We've got more stuff going on in us than perhaps we realise, and maybe when we're tested, that sort of comes out. Hopefully.
And I think the world just has way too much. I don't know. I think there's kind of we've got an information problem. It's kind of good because we have so many options, but it's too many options. There's just this is one of 1,000 ways you could raise your child, and then you're like, even when what you start to doubt, because you're just like, no, but these guys say that this is, but this guy
the trends and the things.
So once again, it's understanding the nature of the beast. Understanding, hey, there's some good information here, but a lot of it's just static. And I have to follow my own instincts. So in some weird ways, it could make us stronger and more clear about who we are as an individual. Because there's an awful lot of noise and all that information, and it's often people, trying to get something, trying to get resources off you or something, and a lot of people just sort of babbling, trying to get attention or whatever. A lot of it just doesn't come from a great place. It comes from a weak place.
That information, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
that that's constantly out there.
Like garble. But there is some really good stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
So it's like that skill to be able to pick and choose.
Yeah. And we have the advantage of, we have the advantage of hearing about life from other people who are not around us, and so I think across cultures, that's something that's incredible, because
that's phenomenal.
You can't see you can't see yourself when you're in it. It's when you go outside and you hear somebody else think differently and see things differently that you can make a difference for what you're doing in your space and your context. But it's also just that filtering thing of being what actually is important about where we are here in New Zealand and what's important about where the information is coming from.
When we get to see all that cross-cultural stuff on YouTube and what have you, I mean, I just, I realised that, we're all just all the same.
Yeah, in many ways.
Same human beings, just born into different cultures, or what have you.
Yeah.
Yes. In some ways, that makes the world a bit more simple.
Yeah,
yes,
true.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we mustn't always assume that it's more complex and stuff, but yeah. Hey, while you're choosing your breakfast, I was just thinking, is there any particular type of food that you miss that you can't get here in New Zealand?
Yes.
Everything.
There's a few. I think one of the things that a lot of things I can just make, which is fine.
Oh, cool. So you can kind of find the ingredients.
You can find the ingredients and make it yourself, which is fine.
Sweet.
I think the thing that I probably miss the most is maize. It's not.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not corn, because corn is sweet, but it's kind of, it's white and it looks like corn, but it's not corn.
Yeah.
It's not sweet, and it's white and not yellow.
Yes.
Although I think there is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really. I think they grow it here for cows, for food for cows.
Yeah.
And I had a friend. I knew somebody at Lincoln University who was kind of experimenting with it, and she managed to get me a little bit. And I was like, yes. But that's probably
I reckon we might be able to source some. I remember looking at a business doing Mexican food and tacos, and tacos are made out of maize.
Yeah,
and I think you can get the maize if you're actually making your own tacos,
right?
Because it is. It's not like obviously polenta or those other things, semolina or anything. It's just, maize is maize.
Maize probably would be.
It's probably a little bit of a cool thing to do. Cool. Go and get the maize to make the proper tacos.
Oh, make proper tacos. Yeah, sure, totally.
Tastes really nice.
Proper tacos are amazing. What do you make out of it?
One of my favorite ways to have it is to roast it over, in the grill. And that's probably my favorite way to have it. Use it to make something called mokimo, which is mashed potato and peas and maize and probably pumpkin leaves or some other green leaf.
Yep.
And you kind of mash it all together. So it's a type of mashed potato, I guess. But that's really good. Or just have it with maize and beans and then fry it together.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Almost refried beans.
Yeah. It's sort of vegetarian nachos, but with maize instead of corn.
Yeah.
I've never had it. I'd love to taste it, try it out.
Yeah.
Because I'd read in books maize, but I don't know what the heck it was. But I have seen it in the fields.
I'm going to try and get some.
Farmers.
I'm going to try and buy a sack of it.
A sack of it.
Surprise you.
Let me know. I will be very excited.
I'll become your maize dealer.
Yeah.
Sweet as. Thanks, Ciru.
Yeah. Cheers.